Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and Ashley Buckholt dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. We're recording this on the 28th. Hopefully get it out pretty quickly. We've got a great guest. He was on, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Casey O'Neill. Casey, welcome back. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me and the invite back. Got a lot of positive feedback on the last one, and had some people reach out.
You were a big crowd favorite, Case.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
There was a lot of love out there for you.
Very good.
So real good. We'll jump into this in a second. I want to say had some good feedback on last week's show. So we hit in the 10 shows that we've put on here, we've done multiple before. We hit our 5,000th download this week. And the episode with Brian, just on Podbean and a few of them Podbean, we had about 450 downloads, including the YouTube ones over 500. The ones we can't count, I'm going to say we're somewhere up in the 700 to 1,000 range. I think that's pretty good, boys. So
we're well on our way to getting that Joe Rogan kind of money, right? I'm thinking, Spotify's going to be coming after us pretty soon, aren't they?
Did you say Joe Rogan? Because I did start that a month ago.
Hey, Ash, I just saw Elon, my buddy Elon, just sent me a tweet saying that video spaces are now live on X. So maybe we can do that on X. We'll have Elon on.
I saw it. It looks really cool.
Don't we alienate a certain percentage of our audience by being on X?
You mean the ones that are on Threads? the three that are on Threads now?
Greg.
So it's a good thing nobody listening can see that. So I'm gonna go in and summarize what I saw happening the past week. It seems to me 2 weeks ago we had a little bite start in lumber, especially Eastern Canadian, some Western spruce, Euro, and it just has slowly built. I know Greg and I talked a few times whether there's going to be follow through, and every week seems to get a little better and a little better. I talked to some of the Eastern mills yesterday, and they said they're not quoting out any farther than 3 weeks, which means they are starting to have holes in what they can quote. So overall, we're in the right part of the year for that. I think inventories were low. Greg had some really good observations about shipping direct to some job sites, which he normally doesn't. So I think overall the bite is continuing. It feels good. Matt, what are you seeing in U.S., Western Canadian, down in your Texas market? It feels just nice and solid right now.
It's funny. Last week I said that I was going to do a dump on 2x4 and 2x6 green Doug fir, and that lasted for about 6 more hours after I said that. Yeah, so if you would have listened to me on that segment, you would have been wrong. You would have got caught with some bad shorts.
No, Matt, when I heard you said it's a dump, it's a short-term dump, I immediately went, oh, it's a buy, right? You were saying, hey, the mills have to dump, but for the end users, I think they took that as a signal to buy.
I guess so, because it certainly, like, that was on Wednesday at 10 o'clock our time. By Thursday at 10 o'clock our time, we had a massive pile of orders to sift through on the green Doug fir narrows going to California, where it had just dropped about 8 inches of rain in the previous week. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to pull Greg's thing this week and just say I don't want to dump anything at this point. But to get back to the original question, my business is, I was just having this conversation with a buddy of mine previously to this chat about how I looked at my numbers for the month of February, and I was honestly shocked at how much lumber I've sold this month, because it doesn't feel busy to me. It just feels, it feels kind of boring, honestly. But then I look at the volume of business I've done, and it's tremendous. I'm like, well, okay, so maybe none of it's, I'm not getting these 20 and 30 card days, but I've got a bunch of days where I sell 3 or 4 cars and 4 or 5 trucks, and it just is boring and rinse and repeat. And I'm happy with it. I'm not going to try to force the issue. I think that's the problem right now, is that if you do try to force the issue on the market, there just isn't enough demand yet, and that's building. But there's not enough supply either to catch up with the demand that's coming our way. I can see that based on what your comment, Ashley, about the Eastern mills starting to be a little more selective in what they quote and how they quote it. I can see that happening out west too, where people are now shopping stuff that they could have probably easily covered in December, and they're getting no quoted on it from our mills. And that's because we have a basket of orders already. We don't need more orders where all the guy wants to buy is 12s and 16s. Like, people are going to have to figure out how to go back to buying lumber like random lengths like they used to. And they will do that when they're forced to, when nobody quotes them. That'll be the next phase of the market that we start to see here in March, is capitulation. Initially, you get capitulation on price. That's a sign. Then you see capitulation on ship time and tallies. And then when you get all three of those, you've got a real raging bull market. We're not in that yet. We might not even get there. We might just stay in this type of a trading market for the next 5 or 6 months. I don't really know.
So what inning are we in, Matt? I love it when you always say you kind of equate it to a baseball game.
I think we're like in the third inning here. I mean,
that's the number I wrote down. I wrote down 3.
I think we're in the third inning. So yeah, your wife doesn't have to worry about
no. She would say how many innings are in a baseball game?
Well, how many innings are in a football game?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
so
funny.
Matt, I mean, following up on you, I mean, hey, listen, we are in a supply-driven market, right? We're not in a demand pull market. We're in a supply push market. So it is uneven. And to your comment about, hey, it doesn't seem like it's busy, but you've sold like a ton of lumber. I think a lot of that has to do with the lower level of volatility. It's like there's lots going on, but there's just not there hasn't been a lot of price movement on a lot of items. I mean, there's some items that are, you throw a $20, hoop around the price, and that's where it's been for a long time. What's going to change that? That's what, that's kind of what we're looking for. I mean, hey, the reality, there's going to be less European lumber than has been flowing on a go-forward basis. There's less BC lumber. There's less Eastern Canadian lumber. One of the wild cards, is, hey, in February, the weather has been exceptionally good. I mean, 70 degrees in Chicago yesterday. I mean, for the whole eastern part of the country, it's been good. It hasn't been good out west, which that's going to be, as that dries out and kicks in, how that Phoenix market affects MSR. With that being said, we're in seasonal strength for another, I kind of say it extends, I kind of usually say to early April, but given that we haven't had that much of a run, maybe the real seasonal strength, that doesn't come, until after Mark's expiration and as we run into April. If historically second quarter production is like the second highest production quarter of the year, right? Lowest production quarter is Q1, highest production quarter is Q4, and then second lowest 3, second highest 2. But if we're not going to get that supply, and Ash, you want to talk about, where we are in inventory. So I'll kind of I'll leave that till we move on. I'll save that till we move on to the B block.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's okay. You brought up a good point here about, I never really thought about it until you said it. It's funny. I buy something like last week and I call a mill this week thinking it's going to be up tremendously, and it's either the same price or up $5, right? And I'm like, wow. The other, it's and that's
it doesn't make you feel like you're a great buyer, does it?
Yeah.
No, you know what?
Tip of the spear, Ashley.
I'm still learning. Greg, I'm doing the old thing. As it moves up, try to sell more than I'm buying during the day. But so yeah, we'll circle back.
Casey, right? Ashley, when he got the buy on back in the day, right? He could buy more lumber in a morning than the trading floor could sell in a month.
Yeah.
He was just, it was like eating potato chips for him. He was just like,
Professional buyer.
I
Ashley
sent Greg.
Beckholt.
I sent
At
Greg
your
an email
service.
yesterday saying I hate bought something, and
and so then I went, oh no, that's cool. So then he said, then he bought 6 more cars.
the first one was just a tester.
Yeah. He wanted to see what my reaction was. Oh yeah, that's all fine.
Ashley, you're kind of getting the Eastern Western perspective here from the two of us, but the one thing that's changed fundamentally in the last 60 days is what Casey specializes in, which is the yellow pine part of it. I mean, it was really on its butt and couldn't get up off the mat here. It was like pinned, and the ref had already counted him down to 3, and they tapped him out, and he still wasn't letting go. They just kept pinning him, and it's finally got up off the mat here. So Casey, why don't you talk about the miracle of yellow pine?
If you were in a band right now, Matt, that would be the bridge that you just did right there. That's.
I mean, you're spot on. It found a bottom in early February. The sales pace has definitely been up. I'd say this kind of my numbers for the month, and probably the other traders in our company, we're probably trending 40 to 50% better sales than the month before. It's not a runaway by any means, but we've seen mills jump anywhere from $15, $20, $30 on some key items. Every time they do that, it's a bit of a fight in the marketplace, but so far they've basically been able to establish some new numbers and keep that 2 to 3 week order file. We kind of think there's probably another dip coming into the market next week. This week, Trader Show and all that, our IBS show, and there are a lot of people out, but we think there's probably some more action coming in next week, and it'll further support pine. And from everything that I've been, watching and hearing from the big pro dealers of the world and the box stores and whatnot, I mean, everybody expects a pretty nice spring season ahead of them. As do I. I think these guys have pretty good pipelines where they've probably got anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks of business in the truss, component sector, and people are going to have to be present in the marketplace.
Your rally that's been occurring here for a while, probably about a month, is it been because all the curtailments that occurred in that were announced, or is it because people are just starting to, hey, I need more lumber, we're getting busier?
I think it's a mix of both. We had some pine curtailments, some big mill names do some of that. I think there's been some species stubbing. We kind of talked about that, where if you can put a number 2 pine plate up for what you usually do number 3 spruce, people will do that, right? And I just think there's enough going on, and it's much healthier than what the market was 45 days ago.
So I'm getting a theme here too. It seems like, how are the mills when you go to them with a block now, or a one versus a onesie twosie? Like, what are they wanting to see, right? Because it seems to me when they're not raising prices that much, they want to build an order file and sell. Yeah, and we all know what has to lead price, right?
Yeah, if they can get their today's number, they'll look at 2-3 weeks out, possibly a month out. We're not going to go much farther than that. But if we have some stuff to cover in mid to late March, they'll entertain that.
I'm curious because I don't trade yellow pine at all. This is more just out of curiosity. But do they run into like a spring breakup period where you get into like really wet, kind of swampy conditions where it's hard to get the logs out of the forest, where it disrupts the production?
That'll really affect the wides, the 2x10 and the 2x12.
When does that happen?
I think
It already happened.
Yeah, it's kind of starting or have started. The prices haven't reflected that, where 2x10 and 2x12 run $200 and everything else just kind of grinds up. That has not happened yet.
So Case, let's hit another point. Industrial lumber. What are we seeing there in the pallet market and all that? Has that changed anything since we talked?
The pallet market kind of follows the overall economic feel, right? If these big companies want to warehouse extra goods and have inventory, which nobody wanted to do that in 2023, but it seems like it's it's happening a little more starting this year. And some of the real cheap low grade prices are totally out of the market. Some stuff is very hard to find. We saw 4x4 low grade probably jump $120 in a week and a half, and you can't find it. So there's some stuff that have reflected much better business activity out there.
Are they using that for crating?
4x4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would believe so. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that would go into crating.
What are you seeing on multifamily jobs coming through, Case? I mean, we talked late last year with economists, and there's record number of multifamily jobs in the pipeline, and they're projecting a 20% fall in multifamily this year. I mean, from my perspective, it's gotten off to a slow start, but what are you saying?
We're still fairly steady, I would say. There's some people out there that want to definitely put March and April in the books. And then if you want to be at March and April prices, they'd probably go longer than that. But we really don't want to do that just because it scares us a little bit to be down here and take long-term business. I think it's steady. I do think the dynamic now, though, is these guys have competed over their end use business now for the last 6 months, and there's not a lot of room for error on their side of things, where when prices go from 1,000 to 500, they have a nice healthy profit to take, right? And now it's just been such a grind for so long. There's a fight for every dollar out there.
Yeah, man. You know what? I passed on a bunch of pine jobs for the first quarter back in November, December, just, because of that thing that, hey, the prices are too low. They stayed low, but they're not low anymore. So, those are ones, they were January, February start, which, they probably won't be starting until March or April. So maybe that was the right call, Ash.
Yeah, that's the other thing in that world is anybody who lives in it, the jobs ready to take wood can extend much farther than what the original pricing was for, or so you always have to factor that in, no doubt about it.
8 out of 9 jobs start 30 to 90 days past the initial estimate. Yeah.
So, Greg, you brought up a good point the other day. You noticed a lot of non-traditional people were shipping and asking on inquiry on job site direct deliveries, and the way that you explained it made a lot of sense, right? And I try
to do that. I try to make sense.
Well, it's like I say, I need to have it explained to me like I'm a 12-year-old sometime, which makes sense. So your point was a lot of these people that took these jobs last year for the first quarter don't have enough money in them now to run them through the mill or run them through the yard. Did I hear that right? And they're shipping them direct?
Yeah, I've seen in the last week a number of pro dealers with direct ship, which normally is the yard sold something, the market's moved up, and in order to maintain some margin, they ship it direct instead of through the yard. That's what I think is happening.
But there's also another part of that, which is time, and so they might have got caught short, and they couldn't get anyone to take the orders, on rail or trucks a month ago, and they finally just threw in the towel, and they're like, we just need to ship it directly to the job site. Can you get it there in the next week or so? We do get those also. So when I start to see that, especially shipping from Oregon and Washington, like say Colorado Springs or northern New Mexico, like to some job site, that's not normal behavior, and that tells me that they either threw in the towel because of time or price or both. It's a capitulation is what it is.
I asked, everybody is really excited to talk about OSB, and Casey's, he's a player.
Yeah, I was like, so everybody every week says, when are you going to have somebody on to talk OSB? When are you going to have somebody on to talk OSB? And it's like, Casey, let's talk about the OSB market. And again, I don't know anything about it. I'm not saying how I know the dynamics. And after listening to you talk, Casey, offline, I don't think I want to know the dynamics because there's too much to unwind. I'm already having a hard enough time learning how to trade what I used to trade anyway. But if I heard you right, you got a print number and you got an actual number it's trading at. and they aren't really close.
No, they're not. So, industrial forest products, we are very active in the OSB market. We do have some mill contracts that help feed our shed business. Basically, we'll do shed trims out of our manufacturing facilities, and they'll want OSB along with it, and then we'll trade the open market also, either buying direct from producer or secondary contracts in the marketplace, right? And we've seen this now a couple times. This right now, currently what's going on is very drastic. I would say 2.5, 3 weeks ago, the secondary contract trading was probably 10 to 15 over print, and print was stuck at 355, right, in the Southeast. Now, print's finally ticked up a little bit. I think it's printing at 370. I would say that secondary world is trading at 450 mil. It just skyrocketed in the last 2.5 weeks, and it's really exposed the fact that that people need OSB, right? And they're not sitting super heavy right now, in my view of things, anyways. And the mills have done a tremendous job on the open market that they do have, right? I personally think this marketplace with all the large pro dealers and whomever else has contracts, it's probably anywhere from 55 to 65% contracted, and that 30 to 35% that they're but have in the open market, they have done a phenomenal job keeping it in balance with supply and demand. And if you don't have a lot of your needs fed through that contract world, it's kind of the Wild West out there right now.
What's the price reflecting on the market reports? Are they going to catch up, or is this just
if I put it this way, I would say the OSB market's probably in the fourth or fifth inning, and print's probably in the first.
In my opinion, that's what consolidation does, and when you have a lot of contract business, right? I mean, I'm curious who's actually even reporting prices anymore, and I don't know anything about it. So it just seems the big beneficiaries are the home centers, right? That are doing their volume off of print.
Absolutely. And anybody with heavy contracts, right? They've been able to have their costs stay lower, and then companies who trade open market who have a bit of that, it's been beneficial for sure.
Ash, under the shameless, I'd like to take advantage of mixes in the market. To any of our listeners that may have extra contract product available that they would like to sell and turn a quick profit, call 1-900-G-Man.
Are you talking to us?
Or they can call or email you or Casey or Matt.
There you go. Well, that's.
I mean, I remember, Ash, back in the day, prior life that you had. I mean, your arbitrage with like retailers that had extra contract wood. You made a business of the logistics of moving stuff from markets that weren't as active to other markets.
That's a great point. So what we did, we asked retailers out there that had the ability to take extra contracts. If they only use 5 a month, but they have the ability to take 10. This is one of those things where this is not, and I'm not giving any ideas, but there's a potential there.
We have a disclaimer on the web on our podcast. I mean, Dave puts the whole disclaimer out there.
If you're a retailer,
not telling anybody what to do, but you might be able to do this.
You should max your contracts out if you can, and then sell them in the spot market.
We would never do such a thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
No. I remember we had a guy, Casey. Remember this when the spread was like $200-$300 between, and there was no open market wood available at all, but you could go to certain box stores, and we had a guy that went around and just collected that stuff up.
He got a lot of points on his credit card.
He flew first class to New Zealand off of that trade. He and his wife. That's a good point. Well, appreciate that. So let's go over to some other items here. I saw we had Brian on last week, and great guest, and he talked a lot about the market and so forth. But I saw this week Buffett sold his DR Horton stock. Is there anything we should read into that at all, except that he had a tiny amount of it and decided that he'd book the profit and move on to the next thing?
I mean, aren't they recent all-time highs? The home guys and the BFSs of the world. Now they're starting to buy like Louisiana Pacific and that kind of stuff, right? If you look at the manufacturers like Fraser's starting to look attractive again. So they're moving the money around. They're just moving it from the builder side of it to the supplier side of it. That's where the
Yeah,
money's
he might have
going.
caught a 1 year gain of 80% and just said that was fun, right? Move it around somewhere else.
So where is the inventory right now, everybody? Like, is it sitting at the distribution level? Is it starting to sit at the retail level? Is it making its way to the field? Is it different for every region? Where's it at right now?
I feel like it's kind of all over, like evenly spaced throughout the whole system. It just feels like, I don't know. I'm guessing here a little bit, but I mean, I think our mills have adequate inventory. I don't think we have low or high. We're just sort of in the middle. I think we would have less inventory if the railroads would do their job better, because we've actually got pretty good order files. I feel like my inventory is manageable. It's not high or low. It's just sort of in the middle. My customers, I think they have decent inventories. It doesn't feel like I'm getting a lot of panicky phone calls lately. They just want to make good decisions and keep doing that over and over and over again. So there's my short. I just feel like it's evenly spaced, and that it goes along with what Greg said initially, that we're in a balanced market.
Yeah, same in pine. I'd say it's probably 50-50 mill to customer. Not a whole lot of disruptions in this move up. Freight changed on some lanes pretty significantly, where everybody was using $2.50 a mile, and some of those runs are $3.25 to $3.50 now. So not a lot of money there.
Brings up a good point, Casey. We've noticed that on the freight side too, coming north to south hauls also.
Yeah, based on inventory, Matt's point, I had this conversation yesterday. I say, like we're medium, we've got a chunk of wood that's hedged, and as long as it's a premium and I can continue, I mean, I think this is the fourth month I've been able to roll for $20, $25 a thousand, so, I've added $75 to $100 a thousand to my basis while the market's been basically flat. That having been said, when I look at it, we have a medium inventory based on our current sales pace, which has been pretty high. If all of a sudden our sales pace fell by 50%, then we have a lot of inventory, right? I mean, my thing is always like when if the market goes up $50 to $100, I have no inventory at all, right? Because it doesn't matter how much I have, it's not enough. If the market were to slow, this week and roll over, probably not. I'm probably not in terrible shape, right?
Well, you've got a hedge.
Yeah, I've got a portion. I always have a portion of my inventory hedge, whether it's 5%. Ashley asked me, where's our hedge? And I said, from in recent memory, it's as high as it's been. But Ash, back in the day, I could be 60 to 70% hedged.
Yeah.
Which was always probably too high. I feel like where we are right now is probably, just right.
For people that want to know what the futures market is doing right now, where is it at? Big picture, where's it going? What do the spreads look like? And is there anything that's interesting? It seems to me it's kind of stuck in a place where it isn't moving a lot right at this point.
It's like watching paint dry down there. I mean, it's traded in a $10 range for the last, week, 10 days. It's interesting because, March was carrying a $25 or $30 premium to cash, and cash has kind of crept up underneath it where, March at 563 and Western print midweek is 558. So since we've come to the new contract, it hasn't really expired, hasn't really traded at a discount near expiration. It's kind of held right in there. I'm watching that pretty carefully right now. I feel like there's a break one way or the other. There's probably a $50 move.
I mean, what's your thought? Cash goes a premium to futures. What does that tell you if that happens? That break.
That's the definition of a bull market.
Yeah.
When was the last time we had a bull market? When was the last time we had that cash over futures?
COVID.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're
man,
over.
we
We're over
regularly,
24
we were
months.
regularly big.
Was it
premium.
really? Was it really that long ago? It was. I guess.
We haven't
2
had it
years,
since we,
almost 3, yeah, 2
almost
years
2
ago.
years since we've been in a bull market. I mean, we've been, we bear marketed and we've basically been sideways.
Most commodity cycles are what, 18 to 30 months type of thing. So we got to be getting to a inflection point one of these days.
Yeah, I mean, and that's that kind of wild card. Are we just going to be in this kind of grinding sideways market for, to Matt's point, longer? Because then you kind of need to talk about demand. And if we go, okay, well, multifamily's down this year. Projections are that housing starts in total are going to be lower than they were last year, but it's still not kind of a crashing number. I mean, if we're like high 1.3s, somewhere mid high 1.3s, it's not terrible. We continue to be underbuilt. I mean, when you saw yesterday, Chase Schiller came out with home prices hitting an all-time high. I mean, we do have a huge issue in the prices of homes.
But isn't that Case Schiller the same home selling over and over again?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's more that gives you like the actual this is the number, right?
Right.
It's
right.
it's probably the best gauge of what the quote unquote really happening to people. Now, I did see the other report though that rents have fallen in a lot of markets, which is, I guess, that function of all of the multifamily that's been coming on. So, that's a positive. We really want to watch that rent versus own dynamic, because that's something that's ultimately could really slow home sales and home housing starts.
So it's just our little microcosm we live in here, Greg, over in Northern Illinois. Our neighbor's an agent, and she was saying there was somebody that had a house on the market. The clients came at full ask price, and they said, no, it's not going to be full ask price. We need that was just the starting price. and that seems normal in our little market over there. I wonder how that is across the rest of the country on certain stuff.
I mean, I told you the story of one of my kids that lives in California. I mean, they put their house on the market on a Thursday night, open house, had 5 cash offers by Monday morning, all at above their list price. And they took the 2 best and said, hey, give us your best final offer. And, sold it for 10% above, what they were expecting. It's pretty amazing.
That's how I try to sell lumber. It doesn't work very well, though.
What's that, Case?
That's how I try to sell lumber, but it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. Can you imagine? It's like I said to Ash the other day. I go, hey, you know what? We can always come down in price, but like once we quote a number, we can't go, oh yeah, you know what? I'd like to get another $5 on that. The customer that says sure to that, I love that guy. Love him.
So I want to go into a little one. So I put up here, if a rookie, if you have a rookie or somebody under 3 years, what should you expect in this market, and what should you be doing? I'll lead off by saying, get last look on stuff if you can, right? That makes sense. Like somebody told me today, hey, Ash, I don't care until you get last look on it. Oh, that's right. That was Greg. So that's
hey, did that guy give you the order on the one I said, yeah, we'll match the other guy's prices?
No, I think we just made the other guy go lower.
Oh, did we do that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the things that I think for people just starting out in the industry or here experiencing this market versus one a couple of years ago. Any thoughts?
And I would say get on the phone. Nobody's going to hand anything to you in this industry, but most people are good people in this industry, and will help you along the way if you kind of earn your stripes. And we've got a couple rookies these days, and I'm in a role now where I'm trying to help out with that a little bit. And I'll tell you, the guys who do that have been showing some pretty fast results with some pretty big named accounts that I kind of shocked me when I've seen some of it happen. It's getting on the phone and just
basically have some hustle. Yeah, some hustle.
Well, in a day and age where you can sit in front of your computer all day and email out things and respond to RFQs, getting on the phone, kind of boots on the ground is a real difference maker for sure. Just responding to an email is not the same as getting somebody on the phone and talking to them. Sometimes that's a challenge though. Sometimes it's a challenge. There's some folks that don't want to talk to me. I don't know. I seem like a nice enough guy, I thought. I don't know.
I think I can sell a lot of lumber every day without ever getting on the phone if I want to, right? Like Greg just said, it doesn't take talent to craft up an email and mass send it out to the world. It just takes 10 minutes of time. But that's not why I'm successful. I'm successful because I've met every single one of my customers and I've walked through their lumber yards and I know exactly how many acres they're working with, and I know the people that unload the cars, and I know all of my mill guys. I've been to their mills. I mean, I actually go and visit people that I do business with. And in fact, I won't do business with people I don't like. Okay? So if you want to make your career a lot more fun, when you can do this for 30 years and still have fun doing it, just narrow down the people that you're willing to deal with the ones that you actually like and trust. And if you don't like and trust somebody, just tell them, look, I can't trust you. I don't want to do business with you, and move on. Seriously, your life will be much more simple and you'll be a lot more profitable and you'll be a lot happier in your life than you will if you just want to slam the phone and the email all day long and just beg for offers. Like, I got no problem telling my customers, I'm not doing this for free. If you want me to go broke, then I'm just not going to sell you. I want to make money too, just like you do. Right?
Yeah.
So, and you know what happens when I tell them that? They laugh. They think it's funny. They're like, yeah, we agree with you. You would think that they would be like, oh, they're offended.
No, they're going through the same
Those
thing
guys,
on their
they
end.
want to make 20%, right?
Yeah.
I want to make 4. Whoop-de frickin' do. I'm here to help you make money, but I want to make money too. It's a partnership. So if you can approach your job that way, deal with people you like, deal with people that don't mind you making a little bit of money once in a while. You're not always going to be right. I don't make money on every transaction. Sometimes I intentionally take losses. Sometimes I have to. I don't have a choice. But, in the big scheme of things, you have to have enough self-respect to know who you're dealing with, get on an airplane, go shake their hand, look them in the eye, and know what you're dealing with. Like, you'll be a better trader in the long run if you go back to the fundamentals of knowing the people that you buy into, knowing them not just on an email basis, right? Like, get on a plane, go visit somebody.
I love it, man. That's and Matt, I've been
That's old
around you and
school.
you're around people that I've been around you and you're around people you don't like, and it's uncomfortable. And
I don't even remember. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, just real quick, if you're a framer or a builder right now, and heck, let's throw it in. You can framer, builder, retailer. You got business sold. Like, what's the advice to people right now? Dependent how much of an inventory should they be building on certain things, and what should they be asking for in pricing, and how far out? It seems like we are still caught in the 30-day cycle. Does that make sense? Where maybe that's why we're so smooth and steady. I don't know how much forward business is done out there with the premiums and the CME right now and how low prices were. So maybe there wasn't an ability to get a lot of forward pricing, but how far out should people in multifamily jobs be buying right now if we're only in the 3rd or 4th inning of this, right? What should people be looking for, and what questions should they be asking?
In my opinion, on some of these pine prices still, I would have my second quarter covered. And I don't know if a lot of people are there.
Do you feel that they're not there right now, Case?
I don't think they're there all the way.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit of it, but I doubt it.
I think there's people that have been moving to get April, May jobs covered as of late. But I kind of agree. I think, I don't think everything for Q2 is locked up. I think you get a little more of an uptick in print here, and that may force some more people in. I've seen inquiry for things has increased a little bit lately, but candidly, the premium for May, June starts is there's a decent premium in it over today's price. That's just the reality of the managed risk standpoint. Whether you're going to buy it and put it in a reload and pay storage, handling, trucking, and interest for a couple, 3 months, or, I'm going to give it to you direct to the job site in May, June. I mean, there's a cost to that, back to, to Matt's point.
There's a cost to that. I thought people wanted it at a discount for extended shipment.
I think people are suffering from what Casey talked about earlier with just margin squeeze. And so they're going to try everything they can, from species swapping to beating up on truck rates to, trying to pawn the risk off to you or me as traders to extend shipments at zero premium. You know what I mean? And, sometimes if you hit the right item, if you call up a sawmill and they want, they got 300 units of 2x6 8-foot laying around, and your job calls for a bunch of 2x6 8-foot, yeah, you got a really good argument to make right there. But if you're looking for 2x4 9-foot number 2, and you want somebody to hold shipment for you and not raise the price, good luck, buddy. Let me know how that works out for you.
All right, what do you think, Ash? I mean, marry date?
I think we roll into the marry date or dump segment of this one that's a fan favorite for everybody. I will say, I think Matt had his little introduction, was talking about the green. I think there was some stuff we were tracking pretty well with too over the last few weeks. Matt, you were talking about 2x4 over the last few weeks, just straight out 2x4 being the cheapest. It's moved up pretty good, right? Just straight out 2x4, 2 and better.
Yeah, it's 2x4 spruce and hem firs definitely firmed up. That's kind of what I'm dating at the moment, is just 2x4 number 3, 2x4 number 2, Western species, spruce or hem fir. I feel like it's in the date zone right now. It's kind of fun. I'm not going to marry it just because, all things have a half-life, but I do like it at the moment. My marry thing is really, it's obvious. It's the most obvious trade in the whole wide world right now. It's 2x8 and 2x10, anything. Okay. I don't care if it's green or dry. I don't care what grade it is. I just think mills have done all they can to get rid of that production over the last 90 days, and now they're done with it. And now the market, so we're starting to see inquiries now, big inquiries for 2x8 and 2x10. It doesn't matter if it's economy and better or premium, all grades going all over the country, because it's now springtime. We're almost in March. And that's the time of year when people wake up and go, I could probably use some 2x8 and 2x10 in my yard. And then the next thing will happen is 2x12 will kick off gear. But I'm not ready for that trade yet. Right now, I'm ready to marry 2x8 and 2x10, any grade, any species, you name it, any length. Shut your eyes and buy it and put it in a warehouse for 60 days, and then wake up on April 30th and make a phone call or two.
I love it. Casey, how about you?
I'd say dating. I'm going to throw it out to kind of what you guys are doing a lot of, is some of that non-grade stamp Euro. I think that's going to continue to be a little tighter down the road, as some of that production might not show up this year. And it's a good product. It's a good product for a manufacturer like us. So I think that's something to stay with. I got married to OSB. I'm on a honeymoon right now, and I hope she doesn't leave me, because I'm riding that one out for a while.
Greg?
Well, I mean, I've been in a long-term relationship with 2x4 9s. They've moved up, I don't know, $40, $50 a thousand since we tied the knot. I look at, they're still probably undervalued by $50 a thousand. And, as multifamily jobs continue to get booked for the second quarter, I think that's going to continue to tighten up. I wanted to get married to 2x6 104s, but she ran away and married somebody else before I could do it.
Yeah.
Ashley, last week I threw a teaser out there. I said, I want to date this, but, I'm not sure, I want anybody coming in and swooping in. And, Ashley said, well, I hope that this is not the item, but it's 2x4 MSR. We are dating. It's casual relationship. I mean, it's an open relationship. They're free to do whatever you want. But when you're buying an item, when you're buying MSR at the same price as 2 and better, this time of the year, the seasonality is really favorable for that. And given how much, the rain on the West Coast, particularly the Phoenix market, that's a big consumer of MSR. I think as that opens up and they clear the backlog of inventory, that's going to provide an additional pull. We've actually seen the spread of Eastern out there where it was a huge discount. That spread's closed in a little bit already. Back to hey, dumping. I'm not dumping anything right now. There's no need for that. The wind's at the back. Got to be in to win.
I love it. So married for me, I've gone from dating to marrying MSR. Hopefully there's enough lag in this podcast because I'll probably buy it a bigger ring later on today. We'll see.
You can have a harem.
As far as dating, I'm still a northern guy, but if I lived down south and was, maybe went to college there, I'd probably be dating 2x4 Southern Yellow Pine, number 2 or number 1, just because I like MSR that much. I like the spread between MSR and Southern Pine. But, like I said, I'm only talking about dating it because I don't have I don't know where to take it on a date very, very often, if that makes sense. I would just be caught driving around. And in getting rid of, I agree. I don't have anything I really want to get rid of right now, except inventory that I have at a big profit. So that's my married.
One of the things that's interesting, when you look at like the market dynamics, you think about something a few 3-4 months ago, we were hot to trot 2x4 16-foot Euro. It was all dolled up. It was the thing. Here we are 4 months later. That price hasn't changed at all. The rest of the market has all gotten better, and it really hasn't changed at all. So I'm wondering if there's something that should be dumped. Maybe it is Euro 2x4 16s, and on their way to being undervalued. And 3 or 4 a month from now, 6 weeks from now, we're saying, hey, they could be the buy. So they're in that transition period right now. We have some available for anyone that's interested.
Yeah. Yeah. And 2x4 16 Euro really isn't on the crazy hot scale, is it? Where would you put it on that scale?
I mean, I think it's better than you think.
Yeah. Okay.
I
All
do.
right.
I think you should just stand down, caller. The reason I say that is because I know for a fact, and this is from my own experience and as a buyer and a seller in Western spruce, if it's got 16s on it, it's really valuable, and it starts with a 6. Okay,
it always has great liquidity. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it's not as easy to buy as people want you to believe it is. And so, if you know for a fact that there's less Euro coming over, and you know for a fact that the Western mills are holding their line, and the board's telling you a story, why would you dump the one item that is the most liquid? Answer that one, caller.
There you go.
Caller, you seem to be breaking up.
Jason, that's what we call a brushback. We call that a brushback. Not just a brushback. Okay,
just a little marital counseling.
That's why this show is so great. We get to Matt, I'm open to learn from you every day, brother.
Dude, I've lived this. Okay, so I've been selling like volume. Like I told you, I looked at my volume. February this year over last year is up 41% on inventory sales and up 33% on overall sales. Just volume of dollars. Okay. Now, part of that is the price of lumber is a little bit higher this year. Maybe it's $50 higher this year than it was last year. So part of that's just dollar volume's a little higher, but part of it is volume is higher. And here at the beginning of the month, I was nervous about my inventory. True story. I had a lot of inventory and I had a lot coming. And I've been able to churn through all that very successfully in terms of managing my risk and doing my job as an inventory manager. The one thing I've noticed as we complete the month is that I can sell 16s every day, all day long with a number 3 stamp on them. Okay. And so I can sell more than I can buy. Okay. I don't have any problem selling 16s, number 3. So if I happen to be in the number 2 16 business, such as you guys, I would say learn from what I just experienced in the last 30 days that don't be nervous. You'll be fine.
Well, it's very interesting on those numbers that you just said, right? You're in a different part of the country, right? Southwest and coast. And we're in a different species, and we're in pine in the southeast, and those are eerily similar numbers to what we're seeing, 38, 40%.
Maybe there's more business out there, I mean, who knows? It's fascinating to me. I don't want to read too much into it. I told you guys all before the year started that I was bullish on the first half of the year for many, many reasons. And I'm cloudy on the second half of the year, and for equally many reasons. A lot of it's to do with politics and an election year. So I'm just going to try to milk as much business as I can out of, between now and the end of June, and then hold on for dear life in the second half of the year and just see what happens, and just follow the market, not lead the market. So right now I feel like I can lead the market a little bit, and then sometime around Memorial Day, I'm going to transition over to a listener and not a talker. I'm just going to be like, okay, I've done all I can do for this time period, and let's just see what happens, because I don't know what's going to happen. And then you get smart guys like Brian come on and say he's negative. That worries me, that. And I was talking to a buddy of mine that's a financial dude. He's a pretty sharp, one of those guys that professionally, trades his own money, multimillionaire, very successful person. And he's the opposite. He's super bullish on the second half of the year. He thinks that the Fed and all the worldwide federal governments are going to be dropping rates to try to spur more spending in the second half of the year, which I find fascinating. There's a lot of high level economic back and forth guys that are on Brian's level. They're arguing with each other right now over what's the proper course of action for the monetary policy. Nobody really knows except for the Fed themselves. So it'll be
I think you're giving them too much credit. They don't know either, Matt. They don't know either.
Yeah, I don't, hey, we could talk about that for hours, and I know it's fascinating to talk about economic theory, but when you have an election year, you just can throw that all out the window. Some things are done for political reasons and not for economic reasons. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It's not negative. It's just reality. It's just the way it's going to be. And so therefore I want to be a little bit more conservative in the second half of the year than I feel like we should be smartly aggressive in the first half of the year and smartly conservative in the second half of the year.
Hey, Casey. So we're going to wrap it up like this, but I want to give you a chance to say how people can get a hold of you. You have a bunch of, how many traders do you have there now?
We are up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a kind of a part-time guy. So 6.5, I'd say. That half is the guy. He's doing a lot of production.
That half guy's a little slower.
No, he's sharp. But we've had some growth. We kind of started, a little over a year ago, and it was like 3 of us, and we were kind of, 2 of us were really the hard traders, me and Charles, and we're adding to the team, and it's growing, and the new guys are showing some good promise and success, and it's exciting to kind of be part of that now at this part of my career, right, where I can give a little bit back to that world.
Do you stay up in Michigan, or do you go back and forth from, do you move
No,
around?
I'm Michigan. It's all pretty much, just phone, remote. I'll go down and see the manufacturing once a year, maybe twice, but that's about it.
So Casey, but the last time you were on, I had a handful of calls, people wanting your information. What's the best email to get a hold of you at?
So it's CONEILL@ifpwood.com.
Right on. That's perfect. Dude, we always appreciate having you on. We're going to do it again probably in 3 weeks. So everybody, thanks a lot for making the lumber word popular. And thank you, Matt, Greg, and Casey, for coming on and spending your time. And we'll look forward to doing this again next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.